Nestled in downtown Chester, South Carolina, is a historic jailhouse built in 1914 that is now home to the Chester County Historical Society Museum and Archives. I drop in to have a look around as I discovered through online research it's home to one of the largest collections of Indian projectiles, houses a bench that Vice President Aaron Burr slept on, and has a ton of other interesting historical documents and findings under its roof. This is a two-part guided series, with the first one awarding me with a completely guided museum tour to learn about just some of the amazing stories behind the artifacts and relics that live here. In part 2 of the series, which will be a separate video, things will get even more interesting and a lot more eerie, as the knowledgeable museum guide grants me a private tour of the entire upstairs jail area, not typically open to the public, still intact, remaining as it was in 1914 after all these years. Let me tell you, this place looks like an Alcatraz, has plenty of backstory, including an attempted escape, and is also well known to have ghostly spirits living within its cold, worn, weathered holding blocks. I'm excited to show you everything, but let's start with part 1 of the museum tour. Part 2 of the jail exploration will be posted soon thereafter. A husband, a father, a filmmaker. My name's Scott Stewart, and at this point, I'm not exactly sure where my path in life has taken me. But what I do know, only time will tell. But consider this an open invitation to be part of my journey. There it is, the Chester County Historical Society Museum and Archives. Let's go get a closer look. Pointing the way there. Here it says, opened October 7th, 1981. So it's been around for a little while. And of course, that is on 107 McKee Street in downtown Chester. On the window outside, you can see this newspaper print. And there's the Atkinson Fresh Meats. Not sure if the Lantern is their daily newspaper here. Let's go inside. Good, I guess I'll need the... Okay. Gotta put my mask on.
My room's just too small.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to come barging in.
In.
And you can see just right as you enter, the museum is definitely packed full of interesting artifacts. And this must be some of the Catawba Indian arrowheads. I read somewhere that they have the largest collection here, which makes sense being that we're in Catawba Nation.
This is just a drop in the bucket. We had to take apart a whole room that was covered floor to ceiling. We have over 30,000 points in this building.
Here.
All of them were collected pretty much from Chester County. There's a few Western projectiles from Mr. Gatlin's collection.
Wow, look at this.
Hard to display 30,000 points.
Yeah. Is there one that stands out like elite?
This ceremonial point is very rare.
Oh, this right here. Mm-hmm. Now, this was found in the area, Catawba Nation.
Yes.
Wow.
Down by Great Falls. And then there's an eagle effigy in here somewhere.
Really?
Right there.
Okay, right beside it. Now, what is the purpose of an effigy?
Well, they were decorative items usually.
Okay.
And some probably religious or spiritual.
Yeah, so plenty of, I mean, these are just straight up arrowheads, right?
Projectile points. You can't put a big old rock on the end of the stick and shoot.
But is arrowhead not the terminology you would use?
Projectile point.
Projectile.
The Catawba sold pottery during the Depression, roadside here. So this shelf right here is all roadside.
All from 1924.
On this row.
Yeah.
That's roadside pottery.
Look at this. Is this like a candle?
Candle holder. Our Zeta Brown Sanders was the premier Catawba potter.
So any of these her pieces?
Yes, the Hagler bowl.
Wow.
This, and the 2 candlesticks, and the pipes. The largest collection of her work is in the Smithsonian. This, however, was made in about 1900 by Susanna Harris Owl.
Craftsmanship in that thing.
Well, she was a Catawba Indian.
I mean, that is something else.
She married the chief of the Cherokee.
So I also read there's a lot of paintings and portraits here of significance.
Right. Well, these guys, this guy owned the tavern at the top of the hill. And when Aaron Burr came through, the Great Philadelphia Wagon Road was right over the top of the hill. So when he came through, of course, he was under arrest by federal agents. They got to the town and the bar was open. So they went in to have a drink.
Yeah.
With their whistle. That's when they left him alone outside in Chester's, where he made his famous speech.
This man right here. What'd you say his name was?
His name is Joshua Gore. He was from York.
Joshua Gore, and that's his wife right here.
Yep.
I'm sure we're gonna get to this part, but the bench of Burr.
Okay.
This
Aaron Burr slept on
the
that
vice
bench.
president, Aaron Burr.
Vice president. They brought him into town. He jumped off his horse. The people of Chester listened to Burr for approximately 10 minutes before they put him back on his horse and went inside and got the federal agents and said, get him out of town. So they took him out to the Lewis Turnout, where you could turn your horse out. And what you rented back in the day in colonial times was a bench like this. So that's the bench he spent the night on. This is just government records. This is a county building.
These are original books from that era.
Yeah,
What
these
year?
are all mortgages. This goes from about the 18, I believe it was 1850s, this book.
All right, well, let me see what we got in here.
What is in here is the 1860 Ordinance of Secession from South Carolina. That's
Wow,
Chester
that's
County.
the original?
No, the original's in the State House.
Okay.
They made a lithograph. McKee, Mr. Dunavant, Mr. Moore, and Mr. Woods all signed the Ordinance of Secession. What sets Chester apart is we are home to the only man to refuse to secede from the Union. Samuel McKee was a state
He was
senator.
the only one. Wow.
He voted no 9 times. The vote had to be unanimous for it to proceed to the convention. He stood up before the 10th and final vote and said, we have no factories, we have no foundries, and the abolition of slavery is assured if you form this convention. They left the room. They took the 10th and final vote, which was now unanimous. It's a Confederate-made Springfield.
Okay.
The cartridge box behind it is the only known Confederate-made cartridge box with the canvas straps.
Look at the
going down.
age on that. Old canteen.
Yep. We have a beer bottle over here. These are store records during the war.
Look at this. Look at these spectacles. And is this
That's the United Daughters of the Confederacy. We have all sorts of old documents in here. Well, this is a pre-Confederate flag known as a sovereignty flag. It was made here in Chester. There's a picture of it hanging.
so this
on the house
actual
here in Chester.
flag here is this flag?
Yes.
That is very interesting.
It was never adopted, obviously, by the Confederacy. However, the Army of Polk, Tennessee, that was his battle flag.
That is just
Why?
amazing.
The only thing I can guess is he was an Episcopal minister and he liked the shape of the cross.
And then just here is just various medals.
There's some sundry things from our archive.
Actual Confederate money.
We have
Yeah.
Estigo,
You probably got a vault of that, right?
probably about $1,000.
It always reminds me of that Little House on the Prairie episode
Right.
where Charles had the
That
Confederate
money-
cash
there's a
and it was worth
money-
nothing.
That money pouch back there
Yeah.
was absolutely packed full of Confederate money, but in the very back, he had United States money. Now, Mary McKee, that's one of the portraits. That's probably one of the most valuable.
This woman over here.
Mary McKee, that's she's John McKee's daughter. He had 6 children. 4 died during a diphtheria outbreak, 2 of them on the same day. She and her brother were the only 2 to live to adulthood. And then her brother was killed in a buggy accident around the corner.
Wow.
So she's the only one that lived to old age, and she took care of her brother's kids and her dad. Now, Chester, during World War II, before World War II, we were home to the Carolina maneuvers.
What is the maneuver? Like,
The Carolina maneuvers were held here in Chester County amongst several other counties. But here in Chester is where they decided whether they would continue using horses and mules
yeah.
or that new Jeep. So we have tons of pictures of, and that's General Dunn.
So they had to decide between a horse and this Jeep?
Right. They had to determine, well, we'd never fought a war with a Jeep.
Yeah.
So they had to determine whether these, and how well were these big tanks going to move. They set up an evacuation hospital here in Chester County.
Right here in this small town.
Yes.
Is this an overhead shot of
That's
it?
an overhead shot of it.
Of Chester?
That's
Was it
Chester County,
Chesterville then, or?
No, it changed to Chester right after the Civil War.
Oh, okay.
The Army Air Corps was brand new, so they went to every little town, and on top of the building, they identified the town for the new pilots. These are the officers' encampment was right outside of town on a place called Hamilton Hill.
So
They built
amazing.
a pontoon bridge over the Catawba River. And we have a ton of old Coke bottles. Chester had 2 Coca-Cola bottling companies at one time. We were the same size as Charlotte, North Carolina in the 20s.
That is so neat.
The
Now,
interstate.
tell me that's not a Coke bottle. What is that?
That's the form that goes in the mold
Oh, okay.
before it becomes a Coke.
That is an old...
Listen, I just had to take an old 2-liter out of here. Remember them?
I remember these.
Yep.
I'm from Pennsylvania, and I remember drinking, but they were a little smaller than that, but I remember them. All right, so what do we got in here? The Springs Cotton Mill. Okay. So this is just artifacts from the mill
From the
days.
mills, because we had 3 mills right in town and a 4th one out on the bypass. Everybody in town worked for the mills, complete with mill villages, whole 9 yards.
What a great panoramic shot this is. What do we have here?
Well, baby stuff that people put their kids in, so I have to put them in a case. And this thing's just brilliant. It comes down, you can make a bed out of it.
Is that a, what
A
in
rocking chair and
the
everything.
world is that contraption?
It's a child's swing
That's a swing from,
from like 1900.
wow.
So, for a rich person, obviously.
Hey, still holding up. What in the world is that?
Well, that is a wool winder after you spin it into thread. That's a flax wheel.
Okay.
This is a wool flax wheel. That is Chester County cotton, spun into thread by slaves, woven into a blanket.
Slaves made this?
They spun the thread. Those 3 sisters of Robert McClintock actually supposedly made the coverlet.
Is this-
That's a coffin. Yes.
Okay, I was
It came out of the Durham store. You used to have to buy a coffin if you were going to bury somebody. So
now why is the,
it was damaged.
was that normal to have the head
Yeah,
part
there was
cut?
glass in here. Yeah, this is before most people were embalmed. This is our Chester room. Everything in here. Has
everything here is
something to do
Chester.
with Chester.
Now look at this. Now I've been wanting to see a bald eagle, and now
Well, he's sort of dead. He's been dead since 1937. The kids always ask me why I killed him. And it's because of this.
now you know I've got to ask about this.
We have one of the largest photography collections in the state.
This is something
Henry
else.
Nichols took pictures here from 1918 to 1990. We have over 500,000.
Look
pictures.
at this. Look at the
That
lens.
is his portrait camera. His dad was a photographer in Greenwood. In that book behind me, Partners with the Sun, South Carolina Photographers, the Nichols brothers are recognized as some of the earliest photographers in the state.
So this is an actual photographic camera where they had put the veil over them
Right.
and the whole 9.
Henry Nichols did this. It came with this lens.
Yeah.
And he was a tinkerer. He had a fallout shelter he built when the Russians were coming to get us in the 50s.
Really?
And
He was a prepper.
He was a tinkerer.
Yeah.
And so he built this wheel and put the other lenses on.
Now that would be a scary dentist appointment.
You gotta pump the drill.
You got to pump the drill.
I was
Wow.
wondering, does his assistant pump the drill?
I'm kind of glad that bit of history got retired.
Right. Well, so I got a case and made a display.
Oh, so these, oh wow, I didn't see this. So these are the actual dental utensils from back in the day, huh? Now, is that real teeth?
Yes. Now, this Wayne Rogers Chiefs, they filmed a miniseries here in Chester in the 80s, early 80s. This was Wayne Rogers. He was killed by somebody he was arresting.
What was the name of the miniseries?
Chiefs.
Chiefs.
It was about a serial killer who was killing little boys and burying them in his backyard. He was the first chief, and I can't remember who the second chief was, but the third chief was Billy D. Williams, and he finally caught Foxy Thunderbird. This is the Guernsey Festival Chester had more Guernsey cows than anybody, even Pennsylvania.
Really?
We were known as the wonderful Guernsey Center of Dixie. WGC.
And these are just awards from various contests.
Yep, if you milking contests, best bull, best cow.
Well, they were really taking home the gold there, weren't
Yep, it went on for years.
they? Yeah, they've got a whole...
Yes, and now the guns you see below it, they were made here in Chester. Now, the South historically manufactured very few weapons, but Thomas Bennett there was considered the premier Kentucky long rifle maker of his day. His brother Jordan was a silversmith, and he did all the silver work on that gun. This side, we just talked to the kids about where the computer keyboard came from.
That's where it all began.
That was just donated. My father-in-law's in it. Where's Grumpy? There's Grumpy.
Where is he?
That's my father-in-law.
Number 16, Grumpy.
Number 16,
Hey.
Grumpy. George, he was a
Hey.
lieutenant colonel, retired, so I guess I shouldn't be calling him Grumpy on TV. My perpetual motion machine. This
Now,
one
what
of
is
my favorite
this?
things. Mr. Wittes thought he had invented a machine that,
Perpetual motion.
During the turn of the last century, it was the biggest thing. They wanted to produce power without any source of energy. These are magnets. I don't know what the guts look like because they were gone when we got it. But he did such a fine job on the case that and who
So
else
before
has
electricity,
perpetual
he's trying to...
They all were. Yeah, he took it down to Charleston to some exhibition in 1902,
That is amazing.
where it never worked.
It never worked. So,
It never worked.
hey, you got to fail to win, right?
Who else has a perpetual motion machine? Chester is home to one of the attempts by the Presbyterian Church to educate the newly freed slaves.
Okay.
The Brainerd Institute was opened up.
So
after the
this
war.
Presbyterian church right here.
Nope, this is the Brainerd Institute. The
Okay.
Presbyterian Church opened it up. It opened up in an old plantation house. The old
Okay.
De Graffenried, and you can sort of see the side porch there. It eventually was built up and had a very fine campus.
So they are responsible for being one of the first people to educate.
They educated the newly freed slaves. And now this is the coin awarded to the all-black 371st. We had several guys that served. The Harlem Hellcats were part of the 371st.
The Harlem Hellcats. So that medallion, they were all awarded.
And
Each of them got one.
And several guys got the Croix de Guerre.
Hey, these look like the keys to
It is the key to the jail.
the jail, and that's on the second floor still to this day.
These keys ran this whole jail. These two keys.
The one upstairs.
Every key in this building were those two keys.
Oh, now what?
Press not
That
all.
must have got them in some trouble right there. Was it pretty rough up there?
Supposedly.
Now where is this? This looks like an eerie door right here.
Okay, yeah.
This is taking us somewhere.
This floor is the family floor.
So
jailer?
so everything out here.
This is why this is better appointed. You have molding and a wooden floor. The building's poured concrete. It's a Frank Lloyd Wright construction technique. The Unity Temple in Chicago is another building built just like it. But the family lived here, the jailer, who was also the sheriff. They lived here. We actually have a video of a woman who grew up here. And she goes through and tells you, what each room was. This steel door is the door that separated the jailer from the jail.
So the jailer is on the first floor, is what you're saying?
This is the second floor.
Oh, this is the second floor. Okay. All right.
Okay. We're going from
Now
one
I've
side-
heard this
Yeah,
place
it's very
still
haunted.
pretty much stands as it used to. And I've also heard there's a little bit of a haunted history here.
Oh, there's a very big haunted history
I'm
I
sure you
can't
could
tell
share
you-
a couple stories, right?
here. I can't tell you how many times I've opened this door and heard two men talking.
Really?
Many times. And I just shut it and give them a few minutes to finish up, and
You are, are you here alone when that happens, or?
I almost always.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I think pretty much almost every investigation they've ever done, they've gotten evidence.
So they've done plenty of paranormal.
Oh, gosh.
Oh wow, look at this.